Tonight I was at dinner with two hyper successful people, and I do not mean that lightly. And there was one thing that they said that made them instantly lose respect for a bunch of their old partners and a lot of business leaders in the space, but they completely lost respect for them. And it's around Robert Kiyosaki. If you don't know who he is, he wrote one of the most popular finance books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And these two guys are super good friends with Robert. They did a bunch of business with him. They've made hundreds of millions of dollars together doing a variety of things. And so many people just suck up to Robert. They utterly suck up to him. He can do no wrong because he had this massive brand, and they're just hoping that they can get a few droplets of the Rich Dad brand to hopefully spew over into their business. And people do this to everybody who becomes super successful. Everybody. They just try and leech off of them. And I'm going to say this because I can. Robert, he has a very short temper, and he will lose his shit on people very quickly. He's never done that to me. I've met him quite a few times, but he's always been very pleasant to be around. But I've heard a lot of horror stories, and you hear this with a lot of super successful people. He can lose his shit on people. And Ken said most of these people, and I'm not going to name any names of these people, but they would just suck it up. And they would never say anything, even if Robert was in the wrong. And Ken said he would instantly lose respect for these people who were incredibly strong business leaders, who were strong men. He said, right when Robert would come in, they were no longer men. They would just be his whipping towel boy. And he said, if someone is going to be some other dude's whipping towel boy, that is not a man I want as my business partner. And he said, Josh, pay attention to those kinds of things because those are the same people who would turn their back on you when they get a better opportunity because they see the power that this type of person has. He said, anytime Robert would say something that really went against me, I'd come the fuck at him. He said, that's what you have to do. He said, not only will that earn the respect of those people around you and it will be beneficial to the group, but it's going to earn the respect of the person. He gave me a very distinct story that they were in some foreign country at some sort of conference where the people there were there to learn from all of them. Kenny is the one that runs the biggest business, even probably over Kiyosaki. And they were speaking, and Robert was taking up all the speaking time telling all these stories. And Ken had enough of it. Ken said, dude, these people paid a ton of money to be here to learn things that are actionable that they can take home. And you're just telling them stories that no one gives a shit about, Robert. You think everyone's here to just see you. They're here to learn the things that they came here that they were promised, and you are completely ruining that. And Ken said he just tore him a new one. And he said Robert just fucking he got pissed and he stormed off and didn't come back. They were supposed to speak in an hour, and then the other people with him were like, "Oh my God, why'd you do that to Robert? You know how he gets." And then afterwards, Robert came back down. They spoke together. He was much better. And then after they went back to the green room, and Robert said, "Ken, you're right. I was being an asshole. Thanks for keeping me in check." There's so much importance and so much valuable lesson there. You have to stand up to the bully. And I'm not saying Robert Kiyosaki's a bully, but a lot of people, when they get near him, they put themselves in a position to be bullied by him. And this is hard for a lot of people to imagine until you meet someone who is as famous as that. And Robert is very famous in the space he's in, but when you meet these super highly successful, highly famous people, people act very differently around them. Very differently. And Ken, the lesson he was teaching me at dinner was don't be that person who is sucking up to that person. I think that's incredibly valuable because Ken said he instantly takes them off a potential person he would want a long-term business relationship with because those are the exact same type of people who, when someone more successful comes along, they just start sucking on his teat and just becomes his towel boy because they just want a few droplets of the success that they have. And for me, that makes a lot of sense. That's another reason I didn't know this lesson beforehand on a real conscious level, but from a subconscious level, I am cognizant of always being brutally honest, even when the truth hurts. And sometimes it seems like I'm being a dick. Last time I was home in Boston, I've been eating ribeye pretty much every single night on a not a carnivore diet, but I've been eating a ton of meat. And usually I make my ribeye. My mom made a ribeye. She's like, "How is it?" I was like, "I don't like it." And it's just me being honest. If I like something, I will say, yes, this is fantastic. If I don't, then I will just be honest and say, it's not my favorite. Or maybe I'll try and be more nice about it. But when you know that I'm an honest and a harsh critic, and my mom would attest to this, the compliments mean more because you are not a suck up. When you keep someone to the same standards that you would keep yourself on and you do bad, you already know that you did bad. But when you did good, I am fully going to say, that was great. Thank you. That compliment means so much more than from the person who just constantly says everything you do is great. It just does. It means more because you know it's true. And so, and so these super successful people, the more successful you get, the more famous, the less people are there that are willing to call you out. The more people are coming just like shining your shoes, saying how great you are. And I've seen this from a lot of different people. And I never want to be that person because I knew that if I was in that position, I would want someone to be honest with me. That you need to get level headed and checked sometimes. But it's one of the things that come with being successful is people want a druplet of that success and they are willing to shine your shoes for it, to use that analogy. But the other truly successful people, they'll sniff that stuff out and they'll lose a ton of respect for you. That's what I saw firsthand today. Anyway, I got to get back to work. I think I just closed a client for, I'm going to say, probably 5 figures per month. I'll talk about that in a future video. I've been so busy doing these things because there's been so many opportunities. I got to get back to work and, just make shit happen. But anyway, goodbye.